Alphabet Attributes.
Good morning, Sunday School. We're up to F in our alphabet attributes of God. F is for faithful. God is faithful. What does that mean for God to be faithful? It's not a word we use very much, is it? It means that God can be trusted completely. He always keeps his promises. We're not always so good at keeping promises, are we? We often forget what we've said, but God never forgets. He always keeps his promises. But he knows that we can be a bit forgetful. And so he's given us reminders, things in the world around us that can help us remember that he is faithful. Now, I wonder if you could help me think of one of these things. I wonder if you could guess what it is. This is something that you will have seen lots around you recently. You will have seen it stuck up in people's windows when you go for your daily walk. You might have seen it hung on a lamppost or on the side of a bus. I even saw one the other day painted on the road outside the hospital where I work. But normally we'd see them high up in the sky. They come out after it's rained, when the sun comes out. Have you got it? Exactly. It's a rainbow. Ever since God sent a rainbow to Noah after the flood, it has been a symbol used to remind us of God's faithfulness. God used it to tell Noah that he promised he would never flood the earth again. Otherwise, people would be worried every time that it rained. After the flood, God promised that he would continue to look after our world, even though we didn't really deserve it. Because although the flood got rid of a lot of sinful people, it didn't get rid of sin. Noah and his family were still sinful. They needed the ark to rescue them from the flood, but the ark couldn't rescue them from their sin. God had an even better plan to rescue people from their sin. He had already promised that he would send a rescuer. I wonder, younger Sunday school class, can you guess who that rescuer would be? Exactly. God sent his own Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, into the world to be our rescuer. So 2,000 years or more after God made this promise with Noah never to flood the earth again, a promise that he called a covenant, which is just another name for a promise, Jesus was talking to his friends about a new covenant. He used another picture to help the people to understand his promise, his covenant. He got a loaf of bread and he broke it in front of them. He said, "This is my body that will be broken for you." And then he got some wine and he poured it. And he said, "This is like my blood that will be spilt for you." And just a few days after he spoke those words, his body was broken on the cross for us, and his blood was spilt for us. He died on the cross for us. So why? Why did he have to die? He had to die so that God could keep his promise. We can't keep God's rules. We can't meet his divine standard. Only Jesus can do that. Only Jesus can keep God's rules completely. Only Jesus can live a perfect life and die in our place, taking the punishment for our sin. But a little bit like Noah and his family could only be rescued from the flood by being in the ark, we can only be rescued for our sin by being in Jesus. We need to put our trust in Jesus, that when he died on the cross, he died taking our punishment for our sin. We need to trust that his death was for us. Because God also promises that if we're not trusting in Jesus, then we'll have to pay the punishment for our own sin. So let's be thankful as we remember the pictures and symbols that God has given us to be reminded of his faithfulness. A rainbow. Next time you see a rainbow, remember God is faithful. He is completely trustworthy, so trust him with your life.